Welcome back, everybody. It's time for another edition of Silver and Black Today, an Aussie Sports original podcast. Also heard on the radio, 101.5 KDON and 840 KXNT in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. Scott Gulbransen, your host, along with my co-host, Mr. Mo Moton, Mo's senior NFL writer at Bleacher Report. You can also catch his Raiders work where he is a columnist at sportsnot.com. Follow him on X at Mo Moton, MoEMoton. I am at LV Gully, and the show SNB today. We're back talking Raiders football. Do us a favor. If you don't already subscribe to the podcast, please do so. Wherever you get your audio, just look for Silver and Black Today. Don't forget, rate and review. Also, if you're watching us on video, hello. And make sure you join in the chat there, but also subscribe. Hit that thumbs up button. And don't forget, hit the notifications bell so you know whenever we have a new video. We're back. Same old for the Raiders. They lose 31-0, of course, to the Eagles since the last time we talked to you. Another shutout, another 31 points given up by this Raider team. And I pose the question to you, Mr. Moton. I'm going to go right into it. If you look at the Raiders right now, is this there seems like every week, Mo, there is a new rock bottom. We saw this team go out against the Eagles. We saw the Raiders post on X before the game a simple statement with a picture of Max Crosby that said statement game. Well, their statement was, we're terrible, we don't give full effort, and we're going to get shut out on the road and give up 31 points. Not only that, a franchise worst, again, going back to 1962, a franchise worst 75 yards of offense. Thank goodness they got rid of Chip Kelly because the offense improved greatly after he left. Not. So, Mo, I want to ask you the question. Is this finally rock bottom for the Raiders? We've got 3 weeks left, or are we going to see more?
No, we're going to see more because they got the Houston Texans coming up on Sunday. And guess what? The Houston Texans have the number one defense in the league. They just happen to have Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. on the edges. They shut down good offenses, actual offenses that can move the ball and put up points. You can imagine what they could do to a Raiders team that hasn't scored more than 17 points in, over a month now? So there will be a new rock bottom. There'll be more records broken by the Houston Texans. There'll be more feudal records broken by the Raiders come Sunday. I will say this, though, Scott. I had a tweet a post on X where I said, Chip Kelly's botched play calls really hurt the Raiders on Sunday. No points. And a lot of people, thankfully, a lot of people who follow me caught the joke, the sarcasm there, because who do we have left to blame, Scott? Oh. You fire your special teams coordinator. You fire Chip Kelly. Geno Smith's not in the game. Kenny Pickett starts. By the way, some Raider fans were worried that Kenny Pickett was going to ruin the tank. And I said, do you know who Kenny Pickett is? Do you understand Kenny Pickett has been a backup for quite some time after they didn't work out with the Steelers as a first-round pick coming out of Pittsburgh? So I wasn't worried one bit. I had a post that said, this is going to be a blowout. And it was exactly that. So the games that the Raiders could win are the last two games of the season. We're looking ahead really quick. Giants are just as bad, but I think they have more flair with Jackson Dart, assuming he's healthy and not in the medical tent. And the Chiefs now don't have Patrick Mahomes, so it's a more even matchup, though I do think Gardner Minshew is going to be revved up and motivated to play against his former team.
I would think so. And look, with Mahomes going out, not good for the tank folks out there for sure. I also had somebody on X tell me that Patrick Mahomes is no longer a young elite quarterback because he's 30. Wake up. Hello. So, yes. So you look at this, but what the problem here is you talk about Chip Kelly, the offense. And look, I didn't disagree with the dismissal of Chip Kelly at all. But if you thought the offense was going to get better when you have the entire left side of the offensive line still is a dumpster fire, the right side, we saw some good things happen here. We saw Caleb Rogers again have another nice game. I mean, if only he'd been ready in week 3 or 4, who knows what might have happened with that one. But you look at the Raiders on that offensive line, that's a point we're going to talk about. In the second segment, we're going to talk about the ways forward. And then the third segment, we'll get to some calls. But we'll talk about some ways forward for this team, what the Raiders need to do to start to rebuild this roster. But, Mo, I look at this Raiders offensive line, and people are telling me that they need 6 offensive linemen. I think the left side, when you get Jackson Powers Johnson back, right, and he plays center, imagine that, and then you got the left side with Colton Miller. To me, that is not terrible. You have 2-3 offensive linemen already there. So you don't need to go out and get 6 or 7. You need to stock up, yes, and you need to get a couple starters there. But this offensive line and what that offensive scheme does, the lack of coaching, the nepotism with Brendan Carroll, all that crap, all the stuff that we've seen, that wasn't going to change when Chip Kelly left.
No, it absolutely wasn't. Greg Olson wasn't going to, raise the floor, if you want to call it that. And I totally agree with you with the offensive line. Yes, they need one or two. They're going to need at least 2 starters, because you mentioned Colton Miller, a healthy Colton Miller at left tackle, Jackson Powers Johnson. I think Pete Carroll gets fired. Whoever comes in moves Jackson Powers Johnson back to the center. That's just my opinion. But they definitely need to address the right tackle spot. They definitely need to address left guard if Dylan Parham moves on in free agency. He's going to be a free agent. Scott, by the way, the Raiders tackles are top 3 in sacks allowed. Stone Forsythe, who didn't start the first 4 games of the season because that was Colton Miller's spot. Colton Miller goes down, Stone Forsythe comes over, right? He leads the league in sacks allowed, and he started 10 out of 14 games. He missed a quarter of the season, I reposted that from Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll said he's playing the best ball of his career. Now, if that's the best ball of his career, then I dread to think what was going on in Seattle when Pete Carroll was in Seattle with him. DJ Glaze is tied for third in that list in sacks allowed, by the way. 7 or 8 sacks, whatever the number is, but he's tied for third. And people, I remember people told me, I think it was on this show, someone on social media, hey, Mo, you're like a DJ Glaze hater. And I said, my exact words before the draft were, DJ Glaze hasn't shown he's good enough for the Raiders to pass on the right tackle.
No.
He hasn't. Did he show some promising signs last year? Absolutely. But he didn't do enough for me to say, oh, you know what? We're set at right tackle. Raiders could just pass on the right tackles and they don't need one. DJ Glaze is the guy. And now you're starting to see that maybe he may be better at guard than he is at tackle.
And listen, I think a lot of Raider Nation, and listen, we have very smart viewers, listeners here on the show, because they call in, they share stuff, and they're smart people for the most part. But I'm blown away, and you've said this for weeks and weeks and weeks, raise your expectations. I can't believe some of you out in Raider Nation there, a guy plays marginally okay. Oh, we don't need another right guard. He's doing okay. No. It's bad. Raise your expectations. And that offensive line, you're right. DJ Glaze, no. As a rotational, not even rotational, as a backup, somebody gets hurt, okay, I can see that. But these guys, including Forsythe, these guys will struggle at the UFL level, okay? So they're not your path forward to build that. But the fact that the Raiders went out 75 yards, Mo, I made the comment during the game. I really felt, well, I turned to my wife before I got sick, by the way, with some food poisoning. I said, I swear, I feel like I'm watching a preseason game. That was about what it looked like. It looked like, okay, you're throwing a bunch of guys in there who are not necessarily ready for pro football, but you're kind of seeing you're on the roster, who's going to make it, who's not going to. That's what it looked like. The Eagles, you saw Brian Baldy, our buddy from Odyssey here, do a video showing on the one touchdown toss to Dallas Goedert that they didn't even set the edge. And then I got somebody in my feed telling me, well, at least the Raiders defense has been consistent over the last few years. It's been pretty good. I'm like, are you kidding me? You're kidding me. The defense has not been good. Everything about this team has not been good. You cannot defend, and it goes to Pete Carroll. This is why, if you think Pete Carroll is going to be here next year, pass the bong, because he's not. If he is, then I'm telling you what, this franchise may never, ever, and I know it's been a long time anyway, this franchise may never, ever, ever recover if they don't cut off this cancer of bad football with this regime, with this coaching staff. It has not worked. And Mo, I'm struggling to find anything that's worked at any level on this football team.
So I put out a Bleacher Report article on today, right? And the editors asked me, could you grade the new head coaching hires from the 2025 hiring cycle? So I'm going through the grades, and of course I get to Pete Carroll, and I'm thinking, what else could I say here? It's an F. And not only did Pete Carroll miscalculate, underestimate the amount of work that needed to be put in for the Raiders to rebuild this and turn this around, this franchise around, he compounded it with poor coaching staff decisions. He talked about Chip Kelly. While we agreed Chip Kelly wasn't doing a great job, was it really Chip Kelly's offense? How much control did Chip Kelly have? We wonder now with Pete Carroll meddling in the offense. He has his son running as a position coach of the offensive line, run game coordinator. That's not going to change. You fire your special teams coordinator before Thanksgiving. So Here you have a head coach who came in thinking, I'm going to turn this thing around like I've done everything else in my career. And he didn't take into account just how bad the Raiders situation was when he took it over. You didn't have a quarterback. You brought in Geno Smith. And Geno Smith is playing poorly. The offensive line, you shuffled it when you shouldn't have. If you wanted to – it took, as I said last week, it took injuries for Pete Carroll to say, you know what? Let's have certain players play the positions they played last year. That makes sense, right? And it's like, yeah, Pete Carroll kind of makes sense when the offensive line – I mean, I'm not saying the offensive line last year was great. Mm-hmm. It was better than this year's offensive line when JPJ was center last year. It looked a lot better. When Dylan Parham was on the right side, not the left side, looked a lot better. That's all I'm saying. But Pete Carroll comes in, changes things, adds in the chaos, disarray with a now fractured coaching staff. And the team is much worse than when he got here. So I gave him a failing grade.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this question. Give me your dissertation on it. Because Pete Carroll, outside of bringing a positive attitude, I can't think of anything else that he's added to this football team. Can you, if you dig deep, is there anything that you could say, well, Pete Carroll did this well? No. And so that's my point here. When people are, well, if they roll it back and they go with Pete again, I don't think there's any chance you can. And that's not just us saying that. That is the entire NFL media, by the way, who are very reverent to Pete Carroll. So let's not get that mixed up, because that respect that comes with what he's accomplished over the course of his career is still there. But now the narrative has really switched. You're seeing a lot of national folks talk about, boy, is Pete Carroll doing his legacy an injustice because of what's happening here? Not only that, the press conferences, and look, I'm not getting political here, but a lot of people are making comparisons to Joe Biden towards the end of his administration, where he seemed out of place and he didn't seem to kind of know what was going on. Whether that's fair or not, I'm not here to decide. I'm just telling you that's the perception. And I see that with Pete Carroll. When they talk about it, he keeps referring back to, well, I've never lost games like this before. Dude, you are. The reality is the reality. So you can't go back to what you did 8 years ago. It doesn't matter anymore. And so to me, there's no way. You can go on the blame game trip, and that's fine. There's plenty of time to do that. We'll dissect it once the season ends and go into that. We've been doing it all year round. I had somebody reach out to me, well, if the media wouldn't have been hyping up the roster. Nobody here hyped up the roster. I said they'd win 7-8 games. I thought they would be better based on what we saw last year. Guess what? It didn't. The quarterback stunk. We thought the quarterback would be good. Not great, but good. Serviceable. Not turn the ball over a ton. All that stuff. And that didn't work out. So that's where we're at with the Raiders. All right. We're going to take our first break. When we come back here on Silver and Black today, we're going to get into the path forward. What do the Raiders need to do with this roster? Coaching staff, you name it, to get back into a rebuild mode that is significant, that actually starts to show some progress. You're with Mo and Scott. This is Silver and Black today. Don't go anywhere. All right, everybody, let's tell you about our good friends at Sleeper. Of course, an official sponsor here of Silver and Black today. Mo and I have been playing Sleeper Fantasy Football daily fantasy football, that is, all year long. We've been giving you guys the chance to get up to $100 free with a deposit. That's right. You put in your first deposit, and guess what? Use the code GENTY. That's GENTY. You're going to get a $100 match up to your first $100 on your deposit. All you got to do is get the app, get on there, put some money in there, and they're going to match it. You can't beat it. Daily fantasy football. We've been playing there all year round, as I said, and it's been fantastic. You got to get up there. There's no better place, more fun to play daily fantasy football. Now is the time we give you Mo's picks for Thursday night's game coming up. Of course, the Rams and the Seahawks. Mo, this is a massive game in the NFC West and in the NFC overall. Tell me who you got here. What are you doing with these picks?
I'll start off with the Seattle Seahawks. The most obvious pick here, JSN, Jackson Smith-Njigba. Give me the over on his receiving yard total. Rams have a good defense, but at times their secondary can be a bit suspect. I think JSN is going to go off on Thursday night in a big game for the Seahawks. Seahawks are at home, by the way. JSN has had a lot of 100-plus yard receiving games, and I think this could be one of them.
Okay, so it's at 91.5 yards, which is high. But to your point,
that's high.
That's really high.
What are the catches? What is his number of catches total?
There you can go 80 yards. Okay, so receptions is 6.5, which I think is a no-brainer.
Okay, I'll go 6.5 receptions.
6.5 receptions for JSN, the Ohio State product. So there we go. That's Mo's first pick. Okay, Mo, second pick.
Second pick, I'll go with Kyren Williams, the running back for the Rams. What is his over on the catches? And
he's got
either his catches or his receiving yards, one of the two.
Oh, dude, he's got 1.5 receptions or
that's over.
Over on the receptions at 1.5. Okay, we got that one as well. I also like the rushing attempts there as well at 13.5. But hey, we'll see. Okay, so we got that one. All right, now on you going Rams again, or are you going Seahawks?
Going Rams again. Do they have Kobe Parkinson, the tight end for the Rams, up there?
Let's see, Kobe Parkinson.
Going deep with this one.
Ferguson. Terrence
Ferguson.
There's Kobe Parkinson.
All right. There he is. Kobe Parkinson has been putting up numbers recently.
He has.
And by the way, Devontae Adams has a bad hammy. He's listed as week to week. Could miss this game, even if he does play. Not going to be nearly 100%. As I said, Kobe Parkinson has been putting up receiving numbers in recent weeks. You can imagine what he can do if Devontae Adams were to miss this game. I'll take the over on his receiving yard total.
Okay, that's 33.5. So Mo's picks on Sleeper Picks Daily Fantasy Football is Jackson Smith-Njigba. Oops, I have him on there twice for some reason. Let me go back to there. Jackson Smith-Njigba. 6.5 receptions, over 6.5 receptions. Cody Parkinson for the Rams, the tight end, 33.5 reception yards. That's over. And Kyren Williams, 1.5 receptions as well over there too. So there you go. Imagine that. You get all of that for fun playing daily fantasy football with us at Sleeper Picks. That's Mo's picks. Go deposit some money, get the app, deposit some money, and they will match it up to $100 using the code GENTY. That's GENTY, only from Sleeper Picks. Rules and regulations apply. You can check them out on the app or on the website. Not available in every state, but most likely it is available in your state. Check out Sleeper Picks. Use the code GENTY from your friends here at Silver and Black Today. Welcome back. Segment number 2 here of Silver and Black Today, an Odyssey Sports original podcast. Also heard on the radio, 101.5 KDON and 840 KXNT in Las Vegas. Scott and Mo back with you talking about the Raiders. We're going to move the path forward for the Raiders. And Mo, listen, you and I are not GMs. We're not perfect. Neither are the GMs in the NFL. They make choices, draft picks, free agent signings, don't work out, all that kind of stuff. There is always risk involved in building an NFL roster. But here's my point. The Raiders right now, barring some weirdness, are going to finish in the bottom 3, which means they're going to pick in the top 3 of the NFL draft. Maybe number 1. For those of you that want Fernando Mendoza, the Heisman Trophy winner out of Indiana, the quarterback, you want them to finish the worst in the league. You want them to have the first pick overall in the draft to guarantee that. But I'm just, I guess, struck by the fact that in the NFL, it's been proven you do not win with a marginal quarterback. Okay. You have to make a big swing. You have to get your franchise guy. I mentioned earlier in the show, the Raiders are in a division now where you have Bo Nix, Patrick Mahomes, and Justin Herbert, all elite quarterbacks in this league. Whether you like them or not, I don't really care. They are. Somebody, again, said, oh, Mahomes is 30. He's not elite young quarterback. He is elite young quarterback, despite the knee injury and all of that. So you look at this, but the elite quarterback play in the NFL, Mo, is the single biggest differentiator between contenders and also rans. Again, look at the division. Look at the urgency right now for this Raider team. We saw what happened with Geno Smith, who was meant to be a Band-Aid to begin with. Even the Band-Aids can go wrong, and that's what's happened here. But Mo, I think with all due respect to fans out there, they don't watch necessarily a lot of football outside their team. You cover the entire league. Please explain to us the difference in why the Raiders, with this top 3 pick, as much as they need offensive linemen, as much as they need help on the back end of the defense and the front end of the defense, why this year, especially if they're in the top 3, at least top 2 of this NFL draft, they need to do everything they can to get a quarterback.
Well, first of all, I don't think anyone wants to sit through a season like we're sitting through for the Raiders to draft an offensive lineman. You never know when you're going to be picking top 3 again. I think I mentioned this last week. Just look at the examples around the league. The Washington Commanders, did they have a perfect setup for Jayden Daniels when he got there? Laremy Tunsil wasn't there yet, right? And in his rookie year, they just traded for Laremy Tunsil this past offseason. Jayden Daniels was there last year. Drake May in New England, did they have a perfect offensive line when they drafted Drake May? Will Campbell wasn't there yet when they drafted Drake May. They drafted Will Campbell this year. They added Morgan Moses at right tackle this year. So those teams understood that you get the quarterback, you have him on a rookie deal, which allows you to spend on whatever positions of need you have, or trade for veterans. And if they want a new contract, you have the cap space to give them an extension if they want that. Those are your options. But if you're going to go out and say, well, the Raiders aren't built to have a quarterback right now because their offensive line is poor, then what you're doing is you're kicking the can down the road and hoping that, okay, maybe next year we'll draft early enough where we can get a quarterback. Well, what if you draft an offensive lineman and you wind up with the 8th draft pick out of reach for a quarterback? So now you're going to wait another year for your quarterback, or you may have to trade up and mortgage the future. When you have the chance to draft your quarterback early, i.e. a top 3 pick, top 5 pick, whatever the case is, you draft the quarterback because you just never know when you'll be in that spot again, because teams are willing to move up for a quarterback. That's how important it is in this league.
Well said. And the thing I want to hit on that you said at the beginning of your dissection there was the fact that a quarterback, a possible franchise quarterback on a rookie deal, frees up resources to go get the other positions. By the way, I had somebody reach out and challenge me on my thoughts on this, saying, well, look at Philadelphia. They built their line first. Let me tell you something. And Mo and I did this before we went on the air. The Eagles at left tackle, 7th rounder. At left guard, 2nd rounder. At center, 2nd rounder. Right guard, 3rd round. And then at right tackle, Lane Johnson, who was a 1st rounder in 2013, 12 years ago. So it goes to show you that there are more offensive linemen, and you can build your offensive linemen with 2nd rounders, 3rd rounders, and 4th rounders, frankly, if you look around the league. And you can do that at the same time taking a quarterback in the 1st round, because guess what? There's not 40 quarterbacks sitting there waiting to be drafted that are going to get a chance to be a franchise quarterback. Some people reach out to me too. Well, they can get a quarterback in the 2nd round. They're not as – I have people telling me Fernando Mendoza is not very good, and you're going to tell me you're going to get a better guy in the 2nd round? No, it's not going to happen. So you look at the models all over the league. Yes, there are busts. Because you point out the 4 busts that have happened in the last 6 years or 4 years or 3 years doesn't mean that every player who gets drafted is about, well, the Raiders haven't had a good history. How many times we went to this last show, Mo? How many times have the Raiders taken a quarterback in the 1st round in the last 30 years? Once, right? Twice in 30 years. So to me, that means the only way forward for this Raider team and whatever coach they have is to take that quarterback. And somebody asked me, would you give up draft capital then if they have to move up? Would you give up a ton to go get Fernando Mendoza? Yes, I would. Because suddenly people think, well, if I have to give up a first next year and a first this year and next year's second and the year after's third, that's too much. How do you know that's too much? We had third round offensive linemen that apparently weren't good enough to play until the season was over this year. I don't understand why people put so much value in draft picks later on in the draft and future compensation when you can go get your guy now.
Yeah, I get some responses from people that say, well, there are a ton of busts in the first round.
Sure.
And they're right. There are a ton of busts in the first round. But you know where there are more busts when you pick a quarterback? After the first round. So give me the percentage of quarterbacks in this league right now who are starters who are not first round picks. I did the math already and I posted this on social media, Scott. Mm-hmm. About 3/4 of the league starters, more than 3/4, I would say 80% of the league starters are former first round picks at quarterback. So if you're doing the math, let's do some Raider NFL math here. If 80% of the starters are former first rounders and 20% are not, and you're looking for a quarterback, where are you drafting your quarterback if you want the best chance to find your starter? In the first round. Right. All right. So there's no discussion there. So if people want to argue that, they could just do the math. I'm not even going to argue this point anymore because I'm at an exhaust point with it. If you want to just go through the drafts and go through the teams in the league right now, it takes less than 5 minutes, takes fewer than 5 minutes to go through every team in the league right now and tell me first rounder or not a first rounder. Then do the math. Just play the chances. That's all you're doing here because there's no exact science to drafting a quarterback. There are no for sure guys in the draft. No matter how sure you are about a prospect, you cannot guarantee that prospect is going to translate to an all-pro on the NFL level. I remember when Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be this transcendent prospect. Mm-hmm. He was supposed to be the next Andrew Luck. Trevor Lawrence is a mid-tier quarterback. Is he doing well now? Yeah, he's got a pretty good head coach in Liam Cohen. I'm going to say that name again. Liam Cohen. But Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be a transcendent prospect coming out of Clemson because he won a bunch of games at Clemson, barely lost. Got to Jacksonville, had a pretty good run up for a bit, beat the Chargers in a comeback victory, and everyone talked about that for a couple of years, and it faded away. So my point is you're going to have some busts in the first round, but you're going to have way more busts at the quarterback position after the first round. So Correct. If you're looking for a quarterback, take a swing. Take a swing.
It goes, depending on the report you look at, 50% of quarterbacks taken in the first round don't end up panning out. Okay. So it's a 50-50 shot. I get it. But like you said, you go to the second and round and later, and it goes to under 15%. So you tell me, you want to pick Aiden O'Connell. Come on. Like, you have to make the bet. And Mo, you say it all the time. Scared money don't make money. You can't be afraid to take a shot in the first round. And while you're doing that, by the way, you build the rest of your team. Yes. I'm not saying you take a quarterback and everything's magical and it's great and you're suddenly a playoff team. That's not how it works. But what you do is you take the shot at the quarterback, you build your lines, offense, defense, you build the rest of your team. And if that quarterback doesn't work out, guess what? You go get another one, right? You keep doing it. We've seen this example throughout. And I look at there's four current quarterbacks in the NFL who were first rounders that have been to a Super Bowl. Okay. You go to Mahomes, Goff, Burrow, and Stafford. I didn't say win a Super Bowl. I know the goal is to win a Super Bowl. But if you're a Raiders fan, wouldn't you like a quarterback that consistently at least gets you in the playoffs and gives you a chance to get to a Super Bowl and maybe win one? Well, if you don't invest in the quarterback, you're not going to even sniff it. And again, it goes back to what division do you live in? What division do you live in? You have no chance, zero, to win a division title and assure a playoff berth unless you have a quarterback that can compete with those other three guys. So you're going to tell me you're going to go get some guy in the second round that's going to suddenly just be magical I know it happens occasionally, and people bring up Brooke Purdy and all these other guys. And again, it happens. But the chances are so slim compared to at least a 50-50 shot in the first round. And again, it frees up the money. The most important thing in the NFL is a quarterback on a rookie deal. It saves you money. They get their 35 mil up front. It doesn't hit your cap as much as it does later on. And even when it does, you saw what Mahomes did in Kansas City. He took a structured deal so that his team could remain competitive. Yes, they didn't make the playoffs this year, and people want to say the dynasty's over, all that jazz. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. I don't know. But I can tell you that they've won the division, 10 years, Mo? Was it 10 years in a row? Yeah, okay. So guess what? If you don't think that model works and you think the Raiders should just keep doing what they've been doing for 30 years, you're insane.
You can just do recent research. Let's take the 2024 draft, right? There were 6 quarterbacks that went in the first round. You had Caleb Williams, you had Jaden Daniels, you had Drake May, you had Michael Penix Jr., you had J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, right? Mm-hmm. Of the 6, I would say 4 already look like hits. Yes. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Bo Nix. J.J. McCarthy, by the way, last couple of weeks has been starting to play well. Michael Penix Jr. is hurt right now. So you mean to tell me you wouldn't want a shot at that pool of quarterbacks? Because I guarantee you, Scott, some of the same people that say don't draft a quarterback in the first round were asking, why didn't the Raiders trade up for a quarterback in 2024? Why didn't they trade up? Why didn't Tom Telesco trade up? Remember, that was the talk at the 2024 draft, right? Some people were excited for Brock Bowers. There were some people who said, why didn't they draft Brock Bowers? And there were a lot of people saying, why didn't the Raiders trade up? So which is it? Do you want the Raiders to trade up for a quarterback and get their quarterback in the future, or do you not want them to draft a quarterback in the first round? We can't have these two extremes here.
Right. Now, I've had people say, well, the next class is better. Okay.
The next class is always better.
It's always better, right? But you have Arch Manning, which I've seen a lot of Raider fans hate. Dylan Raiola at Nebraska, Julian Sayin at Ohio State, go Carlsbad, California High School, my alma mater. DJ Lagway from Florida, who's transferring out, by the way. And then maybe Dante Moore if he stays. We don't know if he's going to stay. I doubt he'll stay because I think he'll be a top 3 pick if he comes out. Lenora Sellers, it's you really think? I mean, listen, whether you like Fernando Mendoza or not, I think the kid's going to be a good quarterback. He reminds me, doesn't have the same talent level, I don't think, as Andrew Luck. Close. He's got the same cerebral mindset. And this is a guy you build your franchise around, not only from a talent perspective, but also the off the field intangibles, his intelligence, his ability, his camera presence, all that stuff is perfect for the NFL and would be great on the Raiders. So to me, it's a no-brainer. And so you can argue all you want about this, but there's examples all over the place. The 2024 class, Mo, that was a perfect example of looking at that. Caleb Williams going to the playoffs, going to win their division. Jaden Daniels got hurt a lot this year and they fell backwards. Yes, but look what he did last year. Drake May, again, Penix Jr. out with an injury, and maybe the jury's still out on him a little bit. J.J. McCarthy coming on, and of course, Bo Nix leading the AFC West and going to win the AFC West, I think. We'll see if the Chargers can unseat it, but I think they will. So to me, you go past that in that draft. In the last few drafts, round 5 was Spencer Rattler that year, Milton. A lot of people love Joe Milton. They wanted him to be trade. They wanted to trade to get Joe Milton. Nothing. Devin Leary. I mean, these guys, none of them did anything of significance. So to me, remember Anthony Richardson? Yeah, okay. So that was a bust, right? But everybody knew he was overdrafted. So look, the Raiders have a clear path on what they need to do here. It's no question. The priority should be, after getting a coach and figuring out their ridiculousness in the front office and who's in charge, is they need to get a quarterback. All right. We're going to take a break now. When we come back, we're going to end the show taking your phone calls. Got a few phone calls. We went a little long with the segment, so we don't have a ton of time, but we'll get to some here on Silver and Black today. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You're with Mo and Scott. Don't go anywhere. We're coming right back to hear from you on the Raider Nation Switchboard. All right, choosing work boots used to mean sacrificing comfort or durability. If they felt good, they didn't last. And if they lasted, they wrecked your feet. Brunt thought that was BS, so they built tough boots that feel great from day one. No break-in, no sore feet, because people out there doing real work shouldn't have to choose between comfort and durability. I got to tell you about Brunt because I've been talking about them all year round, And I'm going to show you right now off my foot my Brunt Omen, this boot. And you can see I got some salt on there from the snow here in Cincinnati, but this is the most comfortable boot I have ever worn. I've been wearing it through the snow, working in my wood shop, in the garage, you name it. And it is so freaking comfortable. No break-in period. It's something that I highly endorse. They're a sponsor here, yes, but they gave me this pair of boots, and I will never, ever buy another boot from another company because work boots are important no matter what the work you do is. So that's why you got to check out Brunt. Founder Eric Gerard grew up blue collar and started Brunt Workwear after his friends in the trades kept telling him the big brands had stopped listening and hadn't changed in 100 years. They had sold out to become fashion brands. His buddies encouraged him to start a brand built for them. And that's why all Brunt products are named after the guys he grew up with, real hard working tradesmen. They're no doubt the most comfortable boots I have ever worn, and they fit right out of the box. As I told you, no long, painful break-in like those other brands, but they're not just comfortable. They're built to perform. So if you've been looking for the perfect gift for a hardworking man in your life, or maybe even yourself, get him something from Brunt. Their boots, apparel are something he'll actually use, and they'll keep him comfortable all day on the job. Plus, Brunt stands behind what they make. It's that simple. You can wear them to work, and if they're not right for you, send them back. It's a no-risk gift. With temperatures dropping and the holidays coming up, it's time to treat yourself or the hardworking man in your life to some real comfort. Skip the throwaway gifts and get him something to build to last. That's Brunt Workwear. Our listeners get $10 off their entire order with the code BOWNOWS at checkout. That's bruntworkwear.com and use code Bo knows. Order today and let them know you heard it here on Silver and Black today. Brunt Workwear, don't miss out. This is a great gift opportunity. Welcome back, home stretch here on Silver and Black today, an Odyssey Sports Original podcast, also on the radio, 101.5 KDON and 840 KXNT in Las Vegas. Scott Gulbransen, Moton back with you talking Raiders football. We're off our soapbox now talking about the quarterback. Yes, the Raiders need to drop the quarterback at any cost in the first round. Yes, any cost. Okay, so you don't trade everything away, but you need to do what you got to do. All right, Mo, we're going to get to some phone calls here and see what's going on out there. But I know Raider Nation, I feel a strange calmness amongst a lot of our listeners to say, hey, you know what? Yeah, this is a terrible year. And they don't want the Raiders to necessarily lose, but they do want them to lose because they want to get that draft pick. They can taste the first pick in the draft. And that is the only positive Raider fans are telling me that they have right now, which is a sad, sad thing, my friend.
Sad state of affairs, but that after the game and the Raiders-Eagles game ended so early. It was abnormally a short game because the Eagles were obviously running out the clock at the end, but the game ended like a half hour early. And I just spent 35 minutes just going through draft scenarios. We barely talked about the game because outside of a few people who thought Kenny Pickett was going to ball out against his former team in some sort of revenge game, most of us knew that was going to be a blowout. The Philadelphia Eagles were going to get right against the Raiders, like most teams have done this season and in past seasons, and they were going to roll them out of Philly.
Yeah.
It was the most predictable outcome.
Yeah, I'm interested too, since we talked a lot about quarterback in the last segment, before we get to the calls. What's going to be interesting too is what the Raiders do. If we assume, which is hard with the Raiders because they don't always do what you think they're going to do. If we assume they go for a quarterback in round one, who's going to be the backup? Who's the kind of safety valve for this team next year? I mean, they have Geno Smith on contract, but I don't see a positive way of bringing Geno Smith back, especially if Pete Carroll's gone. So do you roll with Aiden O'Connell? Do you try to keep Kenny Pickett? And again, I'm not saying Kenny Pickett is any answer at anything, but if you have a better team around him, could Kenny Pickett be a game manager for you if your number one draft pick and quarterback balls out and gets the start to begin the year and goes out with an injury or something, God forbid? You need to have that backup on. What do the Raiders do a backup quarterback next year? To me, I know it's a minor story amongst all the other ones, but it's going to be fascinating to see what they do to have that safety valve there at quarterback.
I actually talked about this topic during my Bleacher Report Live, and it is one of two options. You get the quarterback who was a former top 3 pick to kind of mentor your top 3 pick, to let him know like what he's going to face, some of the challenges he's going to face coming into the league from
Mm.
college. This is what the Washington Commanders did with Jaden Daniels, right? Jaden Daniels was a top pick. What did they do? They brought in Marcus Mariota, former number 2 overall pick, right? So it makes sense. Marcus Mariota can mentor Jaden Daniels. Now he wound up playing this year because Jaden got hurt, and he's a functional, reliable backup, and that's also what you want in a player. But you want that mentor slash guy who can come in and play if needed. This is what Drake May and Jacoby Brissett had in New England. Now Jacoby Brissett not a top pick, but Jacoby Brissett's been around the league,
Long
has a
time.
lot of experience, filled in for Andrew Luck, so he knows what it looks like up close with a top pick coming into organization, had to settle himself in. He's seen it before. Those are the type of players you want backing up your top overall pick at quarterback.
Yeah, and if you do go out, and I'm all in favor of, I'm not saying there's not good coaches out there that have defensive backgrounds, but I will go to the hill to die on that the Raiders need to get an offensive mind in the
Yeah.
building at head coach. And so that head
Mm-hmm.
coach, I'm sure, will have a preference on who that backup quarterback slash possible starter, if the rookie doesn't, click right away, whatever it is, we'll see what happens with that. But it's going to be a fascinating offseason, that's for sure, as always, with this Raider team. All right, let's get out to our phone calls here. We're starting just a few today. Tarek, our buddy out in Chicago, here he is.
Hey, what's going on, Scott and Mo? This is Tarek checking in from the Windy City. Just watched the Raiders get dismantled in Philadelphia. It's wonderful to watch. I was hoping they'd get in the end zone at the end and make it 38-0. What can you say at this point? Just continue to keep playing the younger players. The Raiders are dead last in several categories on both sides of the ball, and without question, this is the worst Raider team in the history of this once proud franchise. I will probably check into Pete Carroll's post-game press conferences, but I think I'd rather have root canal because I'm just sick of all the softball questions, and it's just the same crap every single week. And Raider fans have completely checked out this year like they haven't in a long, long time. I think the biggest priority as we head into the final 3 games is to get the front office in order. Get the front office in order before you do your head coaching search, before free agency's here, and make sure you have a clear hierarchy in the front office on who's doing what with no wiggle room, no blurriness, and no haziness, and no inconsistency, and no confusion on who's doing what. Make that very, very clear. And yeah, Raider fans do need to get over what happened 18 years ago with Jameet Loaf, Russell. That was 18 years ago, and all signs are pointing to hopefully Fernando Mendoza. Kid just won the Heisman. Seems to got a lot of skills out on the field, and he seems like a really, really good kid and a good leader. But with every team in our division having a franchise quarterback for the next decade, we better get it right. 66 total yards today. I mean, that is really, really hard to do. But it is what it is, you guys. 3 more games of this insanity, and January 5th is not too far away. That is the date for Black Monday, and let's hope we can have a New Year's celebration 4 days after New Year's Day with the termination of Pete Carroll and this entire coaching staff. Have a great week, guys, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.
There's Tarek. Can't argue with anything you said there, Mo, and I think that this switch over, and to his point about clearing up the front office, because that is a big, big, big issue. Forget about the quarterback, the draft, and all that stuff. He's right. You got to get that stuff straight first. And to me, that means you have to swiftly. They're not going to do it beforehand. They just can't. But when you get to Black Monday, I know you'll be busy on that day for Bleacher Report, writing a ton of stuff. They need to be swift and declarative, and they need to clean house, baby. They need to do everything they can to do. Now, they need to be planning right now. Who are they going to go after? What's the plan to replace what you have? Not only the coaching staff, but maybe some key positions as well. I don't think John Spytek's in trouble here at all, nor do I think he should be. But he needs to be given full reign to be able to run the player personnel side of things and be able to build this team to clear house up front in the front office, but then also immediately go to work on that roster.
So I said this last week in response to our buddy Jacob from Fresno, because he brought up Antonio Pierce. And remember my response to that, I said it wouldn't matter if it was Antonio Pierce or anyone else. As the head coach of the Raiders right now, they need the front office needs direction. As Tarek said, if there's a misalignment between your general manager and your head coach, i.e., your general manager drafts 11 guys and your head coach doesn't want to play, the other 9 guys or other 10 guys you drafted, you have to get your GM and your head coach on the same page as far as how they want to build and develop the roster. If the head coach doesn't want to play young guys and the GM is bringing in rookies, it's all going to go to waste. So the Raiders have to get a head coach and that's going to be aligned with what Spytech is going to do with this roster or wants to do with this roster. And that's why I think Spytech should have a lot of say-so in hiring the head coach, assuming they do fire Pete Carroll. Now, I said this during my Bleacher Report Live that the way I would handle this is you let Pete Carroll finish the season because as of right now, the Raiders are terrible and you want to get a top pick. But after that, week 18 whistle blows, Scott. As soon as that week 8 whistle blows, I'm going to be the guy standing in front of the locker room handing out pink slips. Oh, hey, Pete Carroll, how you doing? Nice job. We appreciate you. Respect. Here's your pink slip. Greg Olsen, respect you for the 3rd, 4th time you've been an OC here. Here's your pink slip. Patrick Graham, it's been fun. You've been around. Here's your pink slip. I'm handing out pink slips all day. Clean house. Clean house top to bottom as far as coach staff is concerned. Maybe you keep Rob Leonard. I do like Rob Leonard, but if you're bringing in a new head coach, he's probably going to want to bring in his guys.
Yeah,
right. You don't want to force. You don't want to force
coaches.
Right. No more forced marriages with okay, you got to keep this guy, you got to keep that guy. Bring in the head coach and let him build his staff under John Spytek.
Right, and I think here too, if I'm the Raider, if I'm Mark Davis, Tom Brady, whoever the hell it is, who knows, John Spytek,
Jim Gray.
I would over the next couple weeks start having the conversation with Pete Carroll about, hey, we don't want to fire you, so we're going to let you retire. We're going to let you retire. So when week 18's over, if not right after the game, then certainly the morning after. So Black Monday, we got the announcement ready for you, Pete. We're going to let you step out on your own. If he refuses, then you do what you got to do. I don't think he'll refuse that. If you put the writing on the wall, which I think it's there, he doesn't seem to see it in press conferences, but who knows? He might behind the scenes. So we'll see.
I wouldn't be surprised if they've already had that conversation with him.
Yeah.
Just not sharing that publicly.
Correct. I agree. All right. Let's go up to CJ. I say up because he's up the road from me. He's up in Columbus, Ohio. Here's CJ.
What up, Scott? What up, Mo? This is CJ from Columbus, Ohio, by way of Central California. Been rocking with you guys since I used to go back and forth with Mo on Twitter. We just call it Twitter. We don't call it a letter in the alphabet. Listen, I've been a Raider fan since 1985, and I'm just going to get straight to it. I mean, we've gotten to the point where this team it's like Murphy's Law in the way that they have a way of the worst case scenario not only happening, but being laughably predictable in how it's going to happen. And that means that to change the way that things go, you have to change the mechanisms with which you go about doing things. Mark Davis has to get out of the mindset of doing anything that is an homage or an honoring or in practicing anything that Al Davis did. If he can't find a way to sort of step away and realize that getting this team back to a winning tradition means that he has to create something brand new from the ground up, then they're going to just be doomed to repeating the same things over and over again. That means everything studs up has to be completely rethought in the way that this team goes about actually sort of operating, at least in terms of what's done on the field. I've gone back and forth with Raider fans about this idea of, what if Mendoza isn't the deal? I mean, you could say that about anybody, but 10 of the 14 teams that are in contention this year drafted their quarterback and developed around them. And the only real exceptions are, ironically, 2 of those teams traded their quarterbacks for each other, the Rams and the Lions. And then you have the most ironic part of this is the Seahawks, who saw the writing on the wall with our guy and took another guy in Sam Darnold. So clearly you don't have the latitude to go about picking another guy's scraps, because I've heard things about, we should trade for Joe Burrow, which is just one of the dumbest ideas, trading capital for a guy who would come into a worse environment that he's disgruntled in currently. So you take Mendoza, and the thing is, you have to go find someone in the coaching staff that is not state of the art now that isn't necessarily even with a track record of success, but is on the ascent, because the NFL works in these cycles. And if you're too late, you grab a guy whose ideas are already sort of on the descent, and then basically you get less for what you bargain for in terms of their ability to actually produce for your team. So whoever it is that they decide, I'm not going to sit here and throw out a bunch of names acting like I'm some sort of scribe. It has to be a person that is doing things on the incline, on the ascend. Hugh Jackson, ironically, for all of the things that he ended up being, was a guy whose ideas were on the ascent.
Oh, there's CJ. He ran out of time, but
That was a great. That was a great call. Yeah,
dude. I mean, I have to give CJ. I mean, that's one of the calls of the year, I think, because he nailed, I think, a lot of what we were talking about today. And he's right. Raider history is important, but the recent Raider history, i.e. 25, 30 years, has not worked. It's that the old way of doing things doesn't work. His point about the coaches, who you're looking for, is exactly dead on. You can't go into it with the same mindset you've had. You have to go at it a completely different way.
and this is why I want a young, innovative head coach. And I try not to talk about this too much because I don't want to come off as being disrespectful to the Raiders' history. Because I do respect the Raiders' history and what came before me as a fan, as a professional. But he is completely right when he says that this franchise, a lot of it is looking at what was in the past. Remember this in the past? Remember that in the past? And I guess it's because those when the Raiders' glory years were. And you haven't had much to celebrate in recent years. But as far as building a franchise, you can't live in the past. This league is a forward-moving league. You have to be ahead of the curve, not behind it. And I think CJ put it perfectly. I'm not going to even try to mess it up what he said because he put it right on the plate.
Yep.
But a lot of I've noticed this with Mark Davis, and I guess it's because the Raiders honor the people of the past, and I understand that. It's fine for fanfare. It's fine in a community relations standpoint, but when it comes to building a team, you have to be forward thinking. You can't be looking in the back rearview mirror and think, oh, what did we do 20 years ago? What did this person do 20 years ago? What did this person do 5 years ago? 5 years in the NFL, ages like dog years. Ages like dog years. So
yeah, and that's the key here is you have to find the way forward. And there's no guarantee a young ascending coach is going to come in and succeed. You don't know. Everything has risk. But would you rather risk that and find the next great NFL coach, or would you rather recycle somebody? Right? Robert Saleh, right? Okay, maybe he's a good coach. I don't know. Didn't do well with the Jets. Had all kinds of issues there. Do you really want to roll back with him? I don't think so. Find somebody new. Take a new path, new process. The old crap doesn't work. All right, we're going to get to our last caller now. We'll go all the way from Columbus to Hawaii. And here's our buddy MDM. Oops. He finally called back in. Here he is.
Hey, aloha, Scott and Mo. This is MDM. I'm calling from Hawaii. It's been a minute since I called because I haven't really had much to say. It's been kind of more of the same, negative. We just keep kind of getting worse and worse and worse. But for some reason this morning, I was having a feeling that this is kind of the darkest before the dawn moment. I looked at our cap for next year. If we cut Geno Smith and Kappa, we have over $125 million in cap space. Now, do we use that cap space correctly? That remains to be seen. But I think that's tops or first or second in the league with New England. Second of all, I'm hoping we get the number one pick in the draft. Nobody likes their team to lose, but to win a game and take 4 or 5 and have to trade up a couple first-round picks back to 1, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I'm really hoping that we get the first pick, that we draft Mendoza, and that would leave a lot of assets left over with the rest of our picks. We can get a couple O-linemen. We can, fill a couple other holes in our roster. So for some reason, I'm feeling optimistic that this is about as bad as it gets. I don't think it's ever been quite this bad. And the main thing, everybody talks about it. You guys are smart. You know the deal. We got to get the GM, the head coach, and the quarterback that are in alignment. And you get the head coach and the quarterback combination, things seem to work out pretty well. And there's, head coach search. I like, guys like Shula, but he's a defensive guy. And I think the only way we get a great young offensive coach to come down to the Raiders is if we do have that number one pick. And I think if we don't have that pick, I think we're going to have a real tough time getting a great offensive mastermind in to coach the Raiders. So as bad as it seems, we're getting done with this season. We can wash it. And we're getting into an offseason filled with cap room and filled with hopefully high draft picks. And, then we're really waiting now to see what the shoe is to fall with our coach and the quarterback. But I think we all know the answer of how that's going to go. Anyways, hope you guys are well. Missed your live show after the game. Hope you're healthy, Scott. Blessings to you guys. Take care. Aloha.
All right, there's MDM, good longtime listener of the show. Thanks for the call, man. And listen, Mo, that's what he gets to there, because I look at the Raiders situation and how bad the offensive line has been this year. But you bring back the two guys from injury, right? Miller, JPJ, Caleb Rogers. The jury's still out, but he's doing pretty well. So we'll see what he can do there. And then means you can go out and get 3-4 offensive linemen, including the draft, including free agency, because as he mentioned, you're going to have $120 million of cap space. You can address the other positions on the team. You're not going to do it all in 1 year. Let's make that clear. But you can make significant strides if you do it the right way. And to me, they have the ability to do that, as he said, if everybody's aligned. Now, the quarterback situation, Mo, the second thing I want to have you comment on here before we get out of here for today is the fact that if you don't get Mendoza, now look, obviously he's the prize at number one. But I like Dante Moore. Is he Mendoza? No. He wasn't a finalist for the Heisman, all that jazz. But that's not the only choice. Mendoza, if it's Dante Moore at 2 or 3, he comes out. Would you go there too? Would you still take that quarterback at the top of the first round?
I might take a swing. I'm not going to go full throat on that one yet, pause, but I'd want to just look at some more Dante Moore stuff before I say yay or nay to that.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say this, Scott, that we fall into this trap, not we, but a lot of us fall into this trap of we get caught up on one player. And we all know that the draft is unpredictable. And I know a lot of people are excited about the possibility of the Raiders drafting Mendoza. But let's remember, and I had to remind my Bleacher Report audience of this, is if the Raiders don't get the number 1 overall pick, there is a possibility that another team leapfrogs them for Mendoza.
Right.
So if the Titans finish number 1, they don't need a quarterback. They just drafted Cam Ward. They're probably going to trade down to get Cam Ward some help. The Cleveland Browns and the Los Angeles Rams, and I believe I said this 2 weeks ago, both those teams have 2 first-round picks. Now, the Rams, you're going to say, well, they don't need a quarterback. They have Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford's in his late 30s. Mendoza could be the succession plan behind Matthew Stafford, and the Rams have the ammunition to make that happen. The Browns are going to probably draft a quarterback. I don't think Shedeur Sanders is going to do enough to convince them not to. So just keep that in mind, that if the Raiders aren't picking first, they may still have to be aggressive if they really want Mendoza, because those teams have the capital to move up. So if I were you, as a fan, I wouldn't hop on the Mendoza or bust bandwagon because you could be disappointed at the end of the day. And the Raiders may still wind up with a quality quarterback, even if it's not Mendoza.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like Dante Moore. I've watched a little more of him. Mo, would he excite me as much as Mendoza? No. But we'll see what happens. And you're right. I watch the Rams, man. I'm telling you. With that first pick, they got enough. They got a young roster outside of Stafford. So you're right. If they could reload, Stafford got another year or 2, and Mendoza, you go to camp, and Stafford's got the starting role. But after a year, then you got a guy to plug right in. I mean, it's insane. But you're right. A lot can happen in the draft, and what the price will be if they're not in the number 1 slot. Hello, Giants game. If they're not in the number 1 slot, then boy. I worry for Raider Nation there for your point, which is there could be a lot of disappointed fans out there. All right, Mo, remind everybody what you got coming up this week.
As I said, I have a Bleacher Report article out. I graded every head coaching hire from this past offseason. I already told you what I gave Pete Carroll, and you already know what that grade is, as it should be. But I also have a Sports Night article out to be determined but I will blast it out on social media and let you know what that topic is. And of course, after the game on Sunday, after the Texans annihilate the Raiders, probably may shut them out again. Who knows? May get a back-to-back weeks of shutouts. We'll see. But I will be live after that game to break it down, whatever the case may be, and of course look at where they are in the draft order after Week 16 games are played.
There you go. All right. Well, that's going to do it. Thanks to all the callers for calling in. Wish I could have got to more today, but we went longer, as we said. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your audio and listen to us on the radio in Las Vegas if you're there. 1015 KDON 840 KXNT. A special thank you to our producer at Odyssey, Mr. Mike Robier, and our producer on the radio in Las Vegas, Mr. Mark Bonilla, who just had a birthday. Happy birthday, Mark. And from Moton, I'm Scott Gulbransen. This has been Silver and Black today. We'll see you next time, everybody. Take care.